Okay, everybody. It's been a long, cold winter, but today is one of the first nice days in March, which means it's about time to do some beginning of the season bike cleaning and maintenance. I'm going to give you guys an overview of how I get my bike ready for riding every year. These are the supplies I like to use: a bucket for the wash, soap, wax, WD 40, degreaser, bike lube, a bike stand, an air pump, and a few rags. So I got this bike stand as a birthday gift a few years back, but you can really find them anywhere online for as cheap as like 50 bucks. It's seriously a back saver, I have to say. I would recommend it to anyone who plans on doing any work on their bike at all. Just for routine cleaning, it's great. It's really easy to use, pretty self explanatory. You just expand those legs in the bottom, adjust the height to whatever your liking is. You loosen up that clamp up top, throw the bike up there, and then tighten up to make sure the bike nice firm there and can't move. Here I'm just tightening up that clamp to make sure that bike isn't going to go anywhere or start falling one way or the other. And here's the bike up on that stand. You can see how much easier it is than having to bend down. Here I'm just getting some close-up views of the bike pre-wash. I cleaned it before I put it away for the winter last year, but there were some freak days in January and February where it hit like 50 degrees, so I was able to get out and ride a little bit. So that's where all this dirt came from. You can see the seat post got a lot of dirt kicked up at it. The forks aren't that much better on the front and back. This is the soap I used this time, just because it's what I happen to have in the garage. But I would imagine you can really use any soap. I'm sure just regular dish soap would do the trick just fine. Now just throw a couple of drops in that bucket, fill it up with water. You don't need much soap at all. 2 or 3 drops really do the trick. Now, when you add the water to the soap, really try to get some pressure behind it, because that's how you get the suds from the soap. If you just start letting water spill in there, it's not really going to get sudsy, and it's not going to have the full effect when you clean the bike. In my experience, degreasing the chain is some of the best maintenance you can do. This is the degreaser I use, Finish Line Citrus Bike Chain Degreaser. I don't have any experience with any other brands. This is just what one of my local bike shops had a few years ago, so I got it and I'll just reorder it whenever I'm out. The original can I got was pressurized, so you can really spray it directly at the chain, but this particular can wasn't. So I took the sprayer from like a Windex bottle or something like that and put it in so I can shoot it directly at the chain rather than pouring it on. It's not the most accurate thing, and it doesn't help that I needed one hand to film, but you want to make sure you get the whole chain. I try to get some of the gears, cogs, and jockey wheels as well. Now, I always forget to start degreasing at the beginning, and I almost forgot again here, but I remembered. You want to do it at the beginning because you really want that degreaser to seep into the chain and loosen everything up. That way, by the time you're done, you can wipe away all that gunk that the chain collected. So here's the wash itself. You just saw me rinsing down the bike. I'm going to fast forward the mundane parts that aren't all that fascinating. I'm using a towel to wash down the bike with soapy water. I had a proper car wash sponge, but I had actually cleaned my mom's bike maybe a week or so ago, and then we got a few freezing days, so the sponge was frozen when I wanted to clean my bike, so I can't use that today. This towel will work just fine, though. I'm just trying to coat the entire bike with those suds. Top tube, seat post, forks, and pretty much everything. Make sure you get under those tubes, too, because that's where things really collect, that dirt, which can really affect your ride. So during the riding months, which for me is generally mid-March through mid-November, I like to wash her and do the whole routine maintenance at least once a month. I can actually feel after a while when the bike's performance starts to slip, the gears will skip, the pedal strokes won't be as smooth, and after this maintenance, I'm actually usually good for another month. You can see the performance increase or improve. And obviously, I'll also do quick hose downs in between proper washes. You don't want to go that long without maintaining your bike at all. So if I'm on a rainy ride or a muddy ride, I'll definitely do a hose down, a quick rinse. I also like to wring out the towel or a sponge over the pedals and chain rings too when I'm done, just as to not waste any soap or water. That's what I'm doing there. After lathering it up with soap, it's time to rinse the soap off. Now, I probably should have waited longer in between applying the soap and rinsing it off, but whatever. Now I'm going to go after the chain that the degreaser has been attacking for the past few minutes. I'm showing you guys a clean towel before I do it because you're going to see just how much dirt that chain has collected. This can honestly take a while, and it gets annoying after like 5 minutes of going at it, but what I'm really doing is just holding the towel around the chain and pedaling backwards so all the dirt rubs off onto the towel. I'll incrementally switch the spot on the towel too, just so I have a nice clean spot to collect the dirt and grease. Make sure you get both sides of the chain too, and the top and bottom. You also may want to use the ends of the towel to get in between the gears on the group set. just so no grease collects in there or you get the grease out of it. It's important to get the jockey wheels too, since they're really carrying the weight back there. You want to do this until there is no more dirt and grease on that towel when you run the chain through it. So you run the chain through it, look at the towel, and there's nothing on it. That's when you know to stop. You really don't need a bike stand to do this. Before I had it, I would just turn the bike upside down, but I really didn't like doing that. I really didn't like resting the seat and the handlebars on the concrete. And also bikes aren't meant to be upside down. So like I said, the whole process of wiping the grease off took like 5 minutes. I didn't want to make you guys sit through the whole thing. But this is that once clean towel after all that grease and dirt has come off. You can see just how much was living on there. And keep in mind, this was only after a handful of rides because I did this at the end of last season too. Now I'm just taking a clean, dry part of that towel and drying the bike off. Usually I'll just let it sit in the sun and it'll dry by itself after an hour or so, but since this is the beginning of the year maintenance, I'm going to throw a layer of wax on it too, so it needs to be dry. This is the type of wax I'll use. Now we wax the boats before we put them in the water every year, so this is the marine wax we use on them, but I'm sure any type of wax will work. I don't think you can really see a difference in the video, but this is what the bike looked like pre-waxing. So if you've never done this, just take a clean rag and put a drop of wax on there, I don't know, maybe a penny size, probably a little bit smaller, and then you really want to work that wax into the frame of the bike. You don't want the wax to be too thick, but make sure all the areas are covered. Now after the wax is on, you want to wait maybe 30 seconds and take a dry part of the rag or another dry rag and buff all that wax out, make sure there's nothing left on. Once you're done, it should leave the bike with a nice, shiny, glassy finish that'll blind folks as you ride by them. I'm going to do the wheels here too. And a piece of advice, try not to drop the wax, which I did like 3 times here. I have a tendency to do that while waxing the boats too. Like I said, I don't think you can see a difference here in the video, but in person, you can definitely notice a big difference after the wax. The frame is a lot glossier now, except for those damn nicks that I put on the bike, but that's just normal wear and tear. Ordinary course of business stuff. Okay, so the use of WD-40 is apparently really controversial in the cycling world. Some people will tell you never ever use it under any circumstances, and others use it as their routine degreaser. I just use it to lubricate the pedals and the bottom bracket because, I do have a lot of miles on the bike and it creaks from time to time. So yeah, I just hit the pedals and inside the bottom bracket, hopefully to make everything smoother and quieter, and in my experience, it works. Now that degreaser has also removed all the lubrication that was on that chain in addition to the grit and grime. The chain really benefits from lubrication though, so after you strip everything off the chain, you'll have to apply some new lubrication. I use wet lube that I found in Walmart or something like that. From what I read, wet lube does attract more dirt than dry lube, but it's also a lot more versatile. So that's why I go with the wet lube, but I'm sure you can use whatever your preference is, read up on it yourself. So yeah, same thing as with the degreaser, pedal backwards and drip the lube on the chain as it passes by, make sure the whole chain gets lubricated. And that's really it, guys. I'll also check the tire pressure, but surprisingly it was still good at around 90 psi, so I didn't need to add any. Overall, the process takes maybe 30 to 45 minutes. Not too bad and definitely worth it. Could definitely help after all I put this bike through. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to help me on my YouTube journey, and I will see you guys next time.